Persistent genital arousal disorder. If you have persistent genital arousal disorder, or PGAD, everywhere you go, people would be asking you, is that a banana in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? People with PGAD have a feeling of arousal without any of the usual reasons for being sexually aroused. It's a sudden and uncontrollable feeling that can leave you rock hard or wet down there for hours or even days, even though it's been a while since you last visited everyone's favorite adult website. It can happen when you're doing normal things, like reading a book, shopping for groceries, or in the middle of a work presentation. Imagine trying to impress the company's big bosses with big numbers and charts without knowing you're also presenting something big downstairs. It's basically a very embarrassing and often frustrating condition that may leave you wanting to stay home forever to avoid getting a massive erection in the middle of what you thought was going to be a regular day. PGAD, however, is a fairly new medical condition that experts are still trying to know more about. There's no clear reason why it happens, but some think it might be due to nerves misfiring or certain medications affecting the body in strange ways. Others have linked it to pelvic issues or compressed nerves, but the cause is still a bit of a mystery, adding to its mildly funny yet bizarre nature. There's no easy fix for PGAD either. Treatments range from therapy to physical interventions to calm the overactive nerves. You may try relaxation techniques, medications, or pelvic floor exercises to find relief. Or maybe you can think of a naked grandma or grandpa to try to calm that wood down. Prosopagnosia. Imagine your body is an iPhone, and your eyes are your front cameras with the most advanced facial recognition software. But having prosopagnosia messes that up because your cameras can't recognize anyone's face at all. Also called face blindness, prosopagnosia is a neurological condition that makes it hard for you to recognize faces. At best, faces can be fuzzy or blurry, but at worst, a person's face can look like a blank canvas, as if the artist of life forgot to paint a face on a head. Let's say you walk into a room full of people who should be familiar to you, at least by name, but as your family and friends say hi to you as you walk in, you're left puzzled because you can't recognize any of them. You may end up constantly asking the name of this certain dude shaking your hand. Some people with prosopagnosia have had it since birth, while others acquire it after a brain injury. In either case, the brain is aware that it sucks at identifying faces, even though you can identify any other object with no problem. It's not that your memory or vision are impaired because your eyes are working fine. But when distinguishing faces, your brain just gives up and waves the white flag. But while there are no treatments for this rare condition, you can still recognize people through other cues, such as their voice, smell, fashion sense, and mannerisms. Your brain can also subconsciously create mental sticky notes that associate certain attributes with certain people. So if you start smelling someone who hasn't showered in weeks, your brain immediately tells you this guy might be your weird Uncle Bob. Persistent musical ear syndrome. There's no need for AirPods if you have persistent musical ear syndrome, or PMES, because you can hear music in your head without a radio or a marching band anywhere in sight. It's just you and your brain deciding to have an unannounced concert. PMES is a rare condition where you hear music, often songs you recognize, without any external source. It's an auditory hallucination, but instead of the spooky kind where you hear voices, this one's more like your mind DJing a random playlist on a loop. This happens mostly to people with hearing loss. It's as if the brain, missing its usual auditory input, gets bored and entertains itself by filling in the blanks with phantom tunes. Sometimes it's classical music, other times pop songs, but whatever the genre, it can feel like your own personal concert that you didn't exactly sign up for. Doctors think it's related to how the brain processes sound, like how people with visual loss might experience phantom images. Your brain is an overachiever that compensates for your sensory input. The brain essentially says, "Oh, you're not hearing much lately? No worries, I'll supply the tunes." It may sound cool, but PMES can be challenging because it's like having a song stuck in your head for days or weeks. There isn't even a perfect cure for it because treatments usually focus on the hearing loss instead of the playlist constantly playing on shuffle. So if that's the case, your only hope for a comfortable life is that your brain has good taste in music. And on the bright side, you can save a few dollars from that canceled Spotify subscription. Sleeping Beauty Syndrome. It's Friday, and you just got home from work, hoping to get a good sleep so that you can enjoy a weekend of fun activities. When you wake up, you realize you overslept. But instead of waking up at noon on Saturday, it's already Monday, so you basically just press the skip button on the weekend. That's what happens if you have Sleeping Beauty syndrome. Also called Klein-Levin syndrome, or KLS, Sleeping Beauty syndrome is a rare neurological disorder that forces you to sleep up to 20 hours, or even a few days. During that time, you only wake up briefly for a snack or use the bathroom before returning to bed. Sometimes you can't even wake up whenever you feel like it. If you're suffering from KLS, you can even feel like you're in a foggy, dream-like state during the brief periods you're awake. You can feel confused, disoriented, or emotionally detached, almost as if you're between a dream world and reality. It's more like your body hasn't fully rebooted yet, because it still wants to sleep even though your body is awake. These sleep attacks can come out of nowhere, like an RKO from Randy Orton. When it hits you, you get knocked out without even knowing why or how, and it can suddenly disappear just as suddenly as it arrived. Other weird side effects come with Sleeping Beauty syndrome. Sometimes you may experience hyperphagia, which makes you eat more than usual, like how animals tend to eat a lot before hibernating for the winter. You might also experience a heightened sex drive. After pressing the sleep button, it's as if your brain hits the fast forward button on the other internal switches. The exact cause of KLS is still a mystery, which makes it even more like a fairy tale that leaves doctors wondering if they should call Prince Charming to get to the bottom of this medical case. Butterfly skin disease. It may sound like it gives your skin a colorful appearance that makes you look like a butterfly among people, but butterfly skin disease is much more serious and dangerous. Also called epidermolysis bullosa, or EB, this medical case gives you skin that's so delicate that a gentle hug can tear it off your body. Basically, the skin is as fragile as butterfly wings. Our skin has layers, and normally they stick together like Velcro, with proteins holding everything in place. But in people with EB, those proteins are faulty or missing, so the layers don't stick properly. Imagine holding together two pieces of paper with only a few drops of glue. They'll slip apart easily without any movement. This causes the skin to blister and tear with the slightest friction. There are different types of EB, some more severe than others. In the mildest forms, people might only get blisters on their hands or feet after minor injuries. But in the most severe types, even internal linings, like inside the mouth or esophagus, can blister, making eating and swallowing painful. It's like nature's most effective but nightmarish diet pill, because you wouldn't even want to eat. Because of this fragility, people with EB often have to live their lives in a cocoon of sorts, with layers of bandages and soft clothing to protect their skin. Now, this can sound ironic because you know that butterflies break out of cocoons. However, you have to stay in your case to avoid the slightest friction. As such, everyday tasks like walking or gripping things becomes tricky because of constant blistering and the risk of infection. Crocodile tear syndrome. Let's say you're watching a blockbuster action movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's the middle of the most action-packed scenes, full of punches, kicks, and muscles flexing. But instead of getting your adrenaline pumped up by action while you're eating popcorn, you cry. These aren't even tears of sadness, because they're more of a reflex you can't control. That's what happens when you're suffering from crocodile tear syndrome. This condition can occur after certain types of facial nerve damage. It's connected to how the autonomic nervous system works, like the body's backstage crew, managing everything from your heartbeat to digestion while you take center stage in life. When you experience facial nerve damage, it's as if those backstage wires got crossed during a scene change. As a result, when you eat or do something similar, your body mistakenly triggers the tear glands instead of just salivating. That's why tears start flowing, even though you're not sad. This is also the reason it's called crocodile tear syndrome, because of the myth that says crocodiles cry when they're eating their prey. While crocodile tear syndrome isn't harmful, it can be very awkward, especially in social situations. Imagine having dinner with a hot date, but instead of enjoying steak, you season your meat with salty tears. You can get this condition fixed through surgery, but you can look at the bright side as well. At least you don't have to pretend you're crying to a sad scene the next time your girlfriend forces you to watch a cheesy drama flick. Macromastia. If you're suffering from macromastia, you can give Sydney Sweeney a run for her money as Hollywood's favorite big-breasted bombshell. That's because this medical case makes you experience an abnormal enlargement of your breast. Unfortunately, it's not just about having extra cushion on your front bumpers. Instead, you're looking at significant growth that makes you look like you stuffed whole watermelons in your shirt. And while this condition can occur in both men and women, it's much more common among the ladies. Imagine having a pair of balloons that just won't stop inflating inflating, even without blowing air into them. That's essentially how this condition works. The breast tissue can grow due to various factors, including hormonal changes, genetics, and certain medications. If you have macromastia, you often face many challenges beyond the physical appearance. You may suffer from neck, back, and shoulder pain because of the overloaded weight you're carrying up front. It's like your chest carries a heavy backpack filled with rocks all day. This will make it tough for you to do daily activities or play any sport, and finding the right bra can become a long quest throughout every mall in the city. But macromastia can affect your mental health too. You might experience confidence issues or social anxieties because everyone will look at those huge knockers for all the wrong reasons. Luckily, you can get treatments for this condition. The most popular is breast reduction surgery. So while the Kardashians went to the surgeon to make their chests bigger, you're going under the knife to make yours look normal, or just big enough to give you the right sex appeal. Adipsia. You know your body needs water to survive. That's why a signal in your brain tells you to get some H2O in your system if you don't want to die from thirst. It's kind of like your brain's way of saying, hey, remember that thing that keeps you alive? Maybe drink some. However, having adipsia changes all of that because it's as if your body thinks it's too cool for water. It's a medical case characterized by an absolute lack of thirst. That means you don't even get the urge to hydrate because your body thinks it doesn't need water. It basically thinks hydration is too mainstream and overrated. This condition can come from different causes, including damage to your hypothalamus, the part of the brain that acts like a thermostat because it controls thirst, hunger, and sleep. Basically, it's the brain's personal assistant, reminding you when it's time to snack, snooze, or sip. So if you suffered from a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, this condition pops up to make it seem like you don't want an ice-cold glass of water, even in the middle of a very hot day. It's like your brain says it's also on vacation mode, even in the middle of a scorching summer. But this condition isn't an excuse for skipping 8 glasses of water a day, because it doesn't take away your body's need for hydration. Instead, it simply damages the parts of your brain that tell you to drink water. So if you're dreaming of outlasting a camel in the middle of the Sahara Desert, you may want to put those plans on hold. Adipsia can be dangerous because you can get sick or die from dehydration. One minute you're lounging on your couch, binge watching Netflix, the next minute you're already passed out due to sheer dehydration. And you didn't even notice it's been a day since you last drank water. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Suffering from Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or EDS, means you're a real-life Marvel superhero who can stretch beyond human limits. It gives you the ultimate flexibility upgrade that allows you to scratch your back without feeling like your shoulder joints will pop out of their sockets at any moment. EDS is a group of disorders that affect your connective tissues, those essential building blocks that hold everything together, like skin, joints, and even blood vessels. Instead of a reliable glue to keep things in place, people with EDS have a body that's too stretchy. So if your body has an elastic band setting, having this condition pushes that setting to the highest level. There are different types of EDS, but hypermobility EDS is the most common. People with this condition can often pull off party tricks, like bending their thumbs back to touch their forearms, or doing splits without breaking a sweat. This makes you the star pupil of your local yoga classes. While that may sound cool, this extra flexibility comes with problems. Your joints can dislocate easily, and you might experience chronic pain from all the extra strain. Plus, your skin can be super stretchy or fragile, making you more prone to bruises and slow healing. In more severe forms of EDS, like vascular EDS, the blood vessels can become fragile and prone to tearing, which can lead to life-threatening complications. It's like having a garden hose that's a little too thin. If that's the case, pressurized blood can sometimes cause a rupture and cause internal bleeding. EDS's cause is faulty collagen, the protein that helps make tissues strong and stretchy. But in this case, it's a bit too stretchy. There's no cure, but treatments focus on managing symptoms. Physical therapy can help keep muscles strong to support those overly mobile joints. So while EDS might make you a real-life Stretch Armstrong toy, you might want to take it easy on those yoga poses. Fetus and Fetu. Imagine being so hungry in your mother's womb that you had to eat your twin to take care of the competition. Well, that's not exactly how Fetus and Fetu works, but it's close enough. It's more like something you'd see in a sci-fi movie, but can happen in real life. This condition is characterized by a partially formed fetus inside your abdomen. It's like a strange house guest treating your body like an Airbnb. except this one didn't knock, wasn't invited, and never planned to leave. This happens during your mom's pregnancy when identical twins are forming. Usually, twins split from a single fertilized egg and develop separately. Still, in the case of Fetus and Fetu, something goes wrong because one twin actually starts to develop inside the other. The host twin grows and forms a normal baby, but the other gets trapped inside, unable to fully develop. It's not exactly a fully formed baby in there because it's more like a parasitic twin, with some body parts present but incomplete. Sometimes there are only a few organs or limbs. The parasitic twin isn't alive in the way you think of a living organism. It's not a conscious thinking being, so you don't have to worry about being a cannibal without even knowing you ate your twin. It can't survive on its own outside the host's twin body, and it grows only because it's living off the host's blood supply. But Fetus and Fetu can be dangerous. Over time, this can cause medical issues like pressure on the organs or even pain, which usually leads to the discovery of the condition. You might sometimes feel your belly swelling more than it should because the fetus is still growing. Fortunately, you can have the parasitic twin removed through surgery, so the uninvited guest won't be crashing your internal organs anymore.